This is just going to be a really quick video on how to figure out a rate of speed, so an average rate of speed. So for example, if you are dealing with a situation where you have some information like a car that travels, let's say it goes 25 kilometers in, I don't know, in 30 minutes, okay? And you want to find out what is the rate of speed of this car. And usually in Canada, when we're talking about a rate of speed, we're going to be talking about kilometers per hour. So let's take a look at this. We have 25 kilometers per 30 minutes, or 0.5 hours, right? Okay, but that doesn't give us kilometers per hour, that gives us kilometers per half hour. So what could we do? Well, what do we have to do to 0.5 to make it 1? It's just an issue of dealing with equivalent fractions or equivalent ratios, right? Essentially, a fraction is a ratio. And so what have I had to do here? Well, I've had to times this by 2. And as you know, if you do that to the bottom, you have to do that to the top, right? Multiply it by 2. So 25 multiplied by 2 is 50. So that leaves me with 50 kilometers in 1 hour. Okay, so the rate of speed would be 50 kilometers per hour. Let's try another one. Let's get a new screen here. So what if I was dealing with something that wasn't a car? Maybe it's a little bit smaller of a distance being traveled. So maybe I've launched something through the air. I'm in physics class and I've built a projectile motion thing, and we've timed how long the golf ball takes to get from point A to point B. Okay, point A to point B. Woo! Okay, great. And it lands here. So this distance is, let's say I did really well. Let's say I made it go 60 meters. Oh my goodness. And it got there in about 2 seconds. Oops, seconds. I can spell. There we go. So, well, how far is that? First of all, let's think about what our rate of speed, what our units are going to look like. In this case, we're dealing with meters per second. So how many meters? 60 meters per 2 seconds. And what I need to figure out is how many is that per 1 second. Well, what did I have to do to make 2 turn into 1? And remember, that question is always a multiplication or division problem. So because we have to keep our ratio even, right? You can't add or subtract to that. So 2 divided by 2 equals 1. All right, well, let's do the same to the top, because we have to keep our ratio even, our fraction the same. 60 divided by 2 gives us 30. So that would be 30 meters per second is how fast it traveled. Okay? So this is just fractions and rates of speed are ratio problems inherently. Whenever you are talking about a rate of speed, you are talking about the ratio between the distance and the time. All right? And this is a very sort of simple problem, the way that we've just put this forward. But that's an important thing to understand, because as your problems get more complicated, you may have to do more conversion with ratios. And so this is a really helpful thing to know. Let's just do one more just so that we can see it. Okay. Let's do another kilometer per hour problem, because those are very common ones. That's often how far we're traveling, or that's often the rate of speed we're talking about. Lots of things travel in kilometers per hour. So let's say, if you're really burning across the Chilcotin Plateau, and it takes you, that's about 460 kilometers. And let's say that you're flying, and you manage somehow to do that in 5.5 hours. Okay? So what is our rate of speed? Well, that's 460 kilometers per 5.5 hours. And we want to know how much is that per 1 hour. And we're always going to get it out of 1 hour or 1 second or 1. So the time always is going to be what turns into 1. And then we need to figure out how far we can go. So what did we have to do to 5.5 to make it 1? Well, we had to divide it by 5.5, right? Anything divided by itself is 1. A million divided by a million is 1. 5.5 divided by 5.5 is 1. So if we do that to the bottom, we have to do that to the top, 5.5. So let's just pull out our calculators here. Feel free to use your calculators for these problems. 460 divided by 5.5 equals 83.63, repeating, and this is kilometers per hour. And in math, I'm super happy if you round to the nearest hundredth. That seems like an appropriate place to round to. So we could say that the car is traveling or traveled at 83.6, and then we know that the next number here is a 6, so it'll round up to a 4. So 83.64 kilometers per hour. Okay? So when you think about how slow it is on the hill, that's a pretty fast speed. Okay, if you have any questions about this, please come find me. Feel free to rewatch the video, and I hope this helps.